And we're back on the second segment of the Threshing Floor with my guests, Chris and Michelle from the Chronicle Project. And it'd be a good time to give the website out as well. It is thechronicleproject.org. Is that correct?
Yep.
Nice new fresh website design that was just put up by Utah.
And then switched one day later.
And that's the beautiful thing about web design.
I don't know if you've been to it or not. We put it up for, did it get 2 days? I think it got 2 days. It got 2 days. It was really nice. It was all blacks and reds, and then everybody sent in, it looks satanic. It's like, okay. So we switched to blue.
It looks like somebody's concept of satanic, actually.
Okay, blue light is true light, red light is dead light. Okay, there's a little fantasy quote for you. So we switched it to blue, and now everybody's happy. So
there you go.
Everyone's calm.
Read the material.
Yeah.
So one more time, thechronicleproject.org, and you'll probably see that crawl along your screen on the video, and we'll put some links up on the website as well to get you over there to look at this material, because really this is kind of eye material. You need to look at the materials themselves. Talking about it, and again, Michelle, you had something you were going to say right before we went to break. You want to go ahead and bring that back in for us?
Certainly. I was just going to comment that really the language is every teacher's dream. Their pupils can't take slang and incorporate it into the language to the point that it's now in the Oxford Dictionary.
You know, I'm thinking about the book of Zechariah, and I think in there, at least the way we have it translated, it says that God would restore pure language. Mm. And, the whole time that I've been, just for the listeners to know, we've kind of been in contact with each other for quite a while now. I don't remember how many months, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. We've kind of been talking back and forth with each other on this. And I've had this sense all along as I got comfortable with the material and we got to know each other, that this was far larger than anything I imagined when I originally looked at it. That, in fact, without going into hyperbole, I think this is groundbreaking, and I think that what you've begun here is something that's going to have ripple effects going out, largely because of the Internet. So we're talking about a language here that's closed, that's sealed, has concepts to it that are linked to actual human beings. The way we think as children, the way we move, the natural things about us as creatures. This actually feels to me like a language that a sovereign God would design for his children.
Yeah.
Actually, on that note, fascinating enough, Chris was at work today.
Oh yeah.
And
this is what we told you about. We promised Randy tonight that we were going to reveal something that we just discovered.
Threshing Floor exclusive.
Threshing Floor exclusive. This is the first. We're going to do this, and what dawned on me this afternoon, and I'd like to say that it was all mine, but Utah also has put something on the website, and it dawned on her. But the magnitude just caught me this afternoon. I was driving along. It was really interesting because I did not know what she'd put on the site because she'd rewritten some of the disclaimers on the front. And then I had this epiphany as I was driving, and sheerly amazed when I got home and read what Utah had written on the site as the opener regarding, it says, if you know ancient Hebrew, please read this first. She describes the fact that it can be taught to children who are deaf, because it's emotion, so it's like sign language. Here's the kicker. When we first got the language, I thought this language is ingenious. It can't be changed. It holds its own. It's self-defining. There's nothing like this on the earth. And then this afternoon, it dawns on me that the language is designed so that every single person in a society speaking this can communicate with a deaf person. So nobody who's deaf would be marginalized, because every single Hebrew would be able to talk to them by simply doing the mannerisms that go with the words.
Or any speech impediment.
And anybody who had a speech impediment could do the same back.
Actually fascinating, it just dawned on me right now as well. the concept that you're military. You didn't even have to create a new tactical language.
Yeah. If the military wants to communicate to somebody, he looks at him and he goes.
Now that actually makes a lot of sense when you stop to consider the early days of the Hebrew people coming into the land and having to begin battling the people who were there that needed to be rooted out.
Right.
Something we can talk about a little bit later in terms of who those people were, by the way.
Yeah, I knew you were going to do that.
We got to go into that because there's a prophetic side to all of this, and one of the great strengths of what you've done in the renderings of Scripture on the website is that I think you've informed certain prophetic things going back in time and forward in time, because to me that's what's interesting about prophecy, is how it streams from end to beginning, and God has spoken the beginning from the end. So in a lot of ways for me that was real meaningful. I need to ask, how did we get to the place where Hebrew itself was, can I use the term, corrupted? How did we lose it? How did we lose the language?
How about simply lost? And I want to give you an idea from Scripture how quickly that can occur. When the Babylonian deportation took place, that was 80 years. After 80 years, when the people got back, they didn't even know there was a law until a hole was banged in the wall that they were rebuilding. They found a hidden room, and they found all these scrolls in it. So within 80 years, they lost all of the knowledge that the law had even existed in 80 years. So you can imagine, with the fall of Rome in 70 AD, everybody in Jerusalem is deported. They're taught the Greek ways, and that's that. The teachers are lost. They're persecuted. You betcha. I can almost guarantee then, within a generation, all knowledge of the language and other items is lost. And so that's how this disappeared. Now, before we go any further, I'd like to do something, because you're going to have a lot of listeners out there, and I'd like to mention something. If you're out there listening right now and you're an atheist, or you're a churchgoer, or you're a Buddhist, or you're an evolutionist, the thing I want to tell you right now is, don't hang up and think that this is a religious discussion, because what we want to point something out, and Randy will get into it later, is the fact that you have to ask yourself one question. The experts have had this for well on 100 years now, and no expert has ever even come close to finding what's really there, okay? So you have to ask yourself, if they went to this much trouble to malign and change it so that you would never read it the way that it was written, ask yourself this question: why? Why was this much trouble spent to make sure that you never get to read it? Okay? So what I'm asking anyone out there to do is go and read this, not with a religious context to it, but read it and ask yourself, is there something that is being hidden from me? Go and find that out. After that, I don't care what you do with it.
Well, I think for people who may come across this as well, certainly on the internet, we've gone pretty deep over the years in bringing out things that are now staple of what's called alternative media. You know, the dark secrets about our nations, our rulers, our governments, our intelligence agencies, and the wars we fought. But they've hidden something from us for a very long time at great expense that has a value that goes back thousands and thousands of years. This is a part of history that has been submerged, lost, suppressed at the price of blood.
Yes.
And so the important question is, how accurate is your view of a history that you're judging? Our perspective of who we are in history is something we need to deal with. And that's really, you know, again, the heart of this thing, because some of the hardest people right now to deal with the subject we're talking about are Christians, fundamentalist Christians, and I believe as well many mainstream Jewish people are going to struggle with this because we're ingrained in it.
Sure we are. I struggle with this. If you want to really understand, I'm indoctrinated into it. I memorized it. And of all of us, I'm the person that has the hardest time with this, because we will not. We'll take a line and then we'll just run it through the self-defining Hebrew, and then we'll assemble a line, put it up, and I'm not even sure what it's supposed to say. I make sure on purpose
to not read
it and to try not to put in the words that I remember should be there, and then we assemble it, and it shocks me every time that occurs, and it's painful. Shell, tell them about your pain.
It is. I can't think of another description other than painful. It continually surprises us. And it's not that it's always a huge change, but that one little item can change the entire picture inside of your head.
Yeah.
It's the same as commas. In key sentences, that comma can change everything.
Yeah, and if it was as simple as a comma, it wouldn't be a bad thing.
No,
but what's happening in this case is it's literally rewriting everything we know about what happened back then. And a lot of people out there, and I'm going to put this to them right now, a lot of people out there think of the Bible as a fairy tale, and it's got, even between chapters 1 and 2, there's a lot of errors, things that clash at each other with the story. If you go and you read the SDH version, there's not one clash or error now. It all meshes. And that's a change to begin with. But what really changes is a completely different story about what happened. And there is no way in the world that shepherds sitting around a fire could come up with the knowledge of science that is now displayed within those texts. They are mind-numbing as to what is now there.
Maybe what we could do here at this point, in this segment, I'd like you to maybe, well, actually, we're not going to have time to do this. We're running on the clock again. You know what, let's take a break on this segment and come back. I want to talk a little bit about Book 1 in the Chronicle and what emerges out of what we've known as the Book of Genesis. We'll do that when we come back on the other side of the Threshing Floor. Stay tuned.